Myself to you, I am Joe Budd, your candidate for Congress in District 19. I do not have a primary. I am on the ballot for November 2nd. We're excited about this opportunity that our president has given to the Republican Party. I think even more so than Ronald Reagan, he has unified the conservatives and the Republicans because of the terrible direction in which this nation is currently headed.
Amen.
Let me give you a brief background of why I decided to run. I got in this race back in September 14th. That was exactly 1 month before Robert Wexler resigned. And the reason I got in this race is because on July 17th, I saw on Robert Wexler's website, he had posted an article in regards to a debate or a protest that was going to be held in front of his Boca Raton office. And he said, "Don't bother coming. I fully support a universal health plan with a robust public option, and I am not going to change my mind." And that irritated me because as a constituent of Robert Wexler's, I thought that my elected official, who's elected by the people and for the people, would at least have the courtesy to have a conversation. But he said, "Don't come." So I sent it off a letter to him, and I got a form letter in reply in regards to why he took the position he took on health care, and I became consumed with that letter for the following month. I actually became very dysfunctional in my job as a financial advisor because I could do nothing but go through that letter and disprove every claim that he was making. And over the next month, through August, I wrote my own position on health care because it happened to be that I had the visionary idea to know that health care was going to be an area of crisis 7 years ago when I moved my financial advisor practice into Florida's largest independent agency for Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So over the last 7 years, I've learned quite a bit about the healthcare industry. I'm actually licensed to sell healthcare, but I do not sell healthcare. I always refer that business out because I'm not an expert in that particular area. But I have done training in there, and I've listened to all the training that's been done through the Blue Cross and Blue Shield agency. And I wrote a thorough position for healthcare solutions because it's one thing to blame the other side for the things that they're doing, but we must remember that we need our own solutions. And that's always been something I've been about, is making solutions. That's what I've done for people in my financial planning practice, and that's what I will do as your congressman, to bring up solutions that are practical, that make common sense in today's economic environment, today's political environment, and what needs and is best suited for the people of my district. So after writing that particular position statement on healthcare and solutions to the problem, I began to circulate it. And people started to tell me, "You ought to run for his job." And I thought to myself, well, it's a long stretch to take a position on healthcare and to run for Congress. And I thought it over for several weeks, discussed it with my wife and with my family, and I received their blessings. And I decided to throw my hat in the ring because I just couldn't sit there and take it any longer. So I decided to run for this position, and I appreciate all the support that I've been getting. Let me give you a quick campaign update, just to show you, because Weaver at our table here was mentioning some of the recent polls that are going to be coming out very shortly, that some people have been mentioning them and giving precursors, that there's going to be a significant takeover of the House and Senate. Not just barely going to be able to take over those chambers, but it's going to be a significant move. And the polls are pointing that way, and I can tell you from my own personal contacts and the things that have been going on in my campaign, it's also pointing in that direction. Another country club up in Boynton Beach, I attended a lunch last Thursday. 8 senior Jewish men sitting around the table with me. A couple of them had voted for Obama in 2008. We had a lively discussion. And the discussion was about the anger that they have with the direction of the country. And let me tell you what happened within 24 hours of that meeting. I had given them the precinct list for the 2 precincts that this particular country club makes up. While they're sitting around the table, they were looking over those lists. Oh, I know that person. I know that person. I know that person. Over the next 24 hours, emails between them had circulated, and the gentleman who put this together for me contacted me and said, this could not have gone better than what you could have dreamed about. These men are so enthused to help you in your candidacy, they have never helped in a political campaign in the past. What they did is, within 24 hours, they invited another 25 people for a follow-up meeting. They booked their temple for me to speak in. They are covering those costs. They are paying for the food at that event. They are just so enthused. And ladies and gentlemen, that is happening throughout the district and throughout Florida and throughout our country. This is going to be a landslide in November. The question we have to ask, though, and I like this picture here. It's a picture of our current leadership. And in the background there it says, honest leadership, open government. Now, we know that that has not been the case. I have to say and submit to you that the Republicans are ready to win, but are they ready to lead? And it's important that we send men and women to Washington, D.C. that will represent honest leadership. Character is an issue that I had pushed from day one when I made my first speech in October to the Palm Beach Republican Executive Committee. And I said that that will be the main issue throughout my entire campaign. And I believe at the end of the day, just like what happened with Ronald Reagan when he united this country, it was because you had a man in the White House running for the presidency that when he spoke, you listened. You believed what he had to say. He communicated to us honestly a vision that was best for the entire nation, not just best for a particular political party or a particular person or people. And that's what we need in Washington, D.C. There's a leadership crisis in America today. A gentleman by the name of John Maxwell writes many books on the topic of leadership. I've taught the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership in my church. And one of the things that John Maxwell says is leadership is nothing more than influence. Influence is leadership. Now, influence, okay, when you get people to follow you, you can have good leaders and you can have bad leaders. Historically, we can look at some bad leaders like Stalin and Hitler, where they took their ability to influence others into a wrong direction, into a bad thing. But then you have leadership that this country was founded on. Men like James Madison, John Adams, George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson. Many men who had integrity. I like a quote. One of my favorite quotes is from Ben Franklin, saying of George Washington, and I mentioned this at the Jamboree on Saturday. Ben Franklin said of George Washington, he errs. We all do. But when he errs with integrity. See, it's not that we won't make mistakes. It's what we do with our mistakes. It's the integrity and character that a man and a woman must possess if we want those people running this country to do what's best for us, not what's best for the political class. So I want to go there and represent you with that type of character, with that type of integrity that I've demonstrated in my own life. As many of you know and you're aware from back in the primary, I told a story about a business failure that I had. I had opened a business on August 2nd, 1990. If you know what that date was, that's the same day that Iraq invaded Kuwait. It also has another significance because that was the beginning of a recession that occurred because of the famous line the first George Bush said. Remember, read my lips, no new taxes? And those tax increases caused a recession in the nation, and my business was affected by that recession. And when I left that business with nearly $600,000 in debt. I was on welfare for 2 years. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm proud that I was able to go back into the American way with hard work to get myself out of those issues. Now, nobody would have blamed me had I filed bankruptcy during that period of time. But I decided that I wanted to write down all the people I owed money to. And I called them up and I made offers of settlement without forcing them to take nothing, which is what they would have got through bankruptcy. And I was able to pay those debts back over the years. Psalm 15 itself talks about the character of a man. Verse 4 specifically says, a man with good character will keep his word even to his own hurt. I've experienced that in my life. I've kept my word even when it hurts me, financially, okay, or any other way. So one of the things we want to make sure is we're looking with people with good character, strong convictions, and great courage to do the right thing regardless of the consequences.